The NBA trade deadline was crazy. Anthony Davis is a wizard, James Harden is a Cav, Ivica Zubac is a Pacer, and Giannis apparently never wanted to leave the Bucks. But the biggest shock of the deadline wasn't a trade.
Oh, Cam Thomas, your guy. What happened?
I was gonna say he got waived.
Waived?
Allow him.
That was everyone's reaction when we saw the news Cam Thomas had been waived. Not traded, not benched, just waived from the team. Just 1 year after averaging 24 points per game as a 24-year-old, one of the worst teams in the NBA decided, we don't want you on our franchise anymore. And the rest of the NBA decided, we aren't giving up any assets to trade for you. Which means right now, a guy who once scored 40 points in back-to-back games before turning 22 years old, the youngest player ever to achieve that feat, just beating out Allen Iverson, by the way, that guy doesn't have an NBA team. And by all reports, teams aren't lining up to sign Cam Thomas. In fact, so far the only interest I've heard reported is from the Milwaukee Bucks. And getting interest from the Bucks is the exact kind of interest you don't want. But how is it possible someone who has averaged 24 points per game as a starter in his career, someone who had more 40-point games than Kawhi Leonard has ever had before he even turned 23 years old, can't find an NBA team willing to give him a chance? Is it the massive contract that he's being paid? Oh, you mean the $6 million a year that he signed after the Nets refused to sign him to a big long-term deal last year, when NBA fans thought he should have been getting paid $20 million a year? No, it's not the contract. Cam Thomas is a dying breed of NBA players. Someone who can score whenever and wherever, but unfortunately, it's everything else that he can't do quite so well. This was Coach Jordi Fernandez talking about Cam after a game just last month.
The efficient game offensively, not so much with the turnovers, and then the defensive end, gotta be more solid with coverages and so on and so forth. Obviously, his superpower is the scoring. But once again, I need better defense, I need better playmaking.
A game in which Cam had 21 points in 22 minutes off the bench. A super efficient 21 points against one of the best teams in the league. But instead of praising Cam for his scoring, Jordi Fernandez was focused on what he didn't do in this game against Houston. Because from that same 21-point performance, Cam recorded 1 rebound, 1 assist, 0 blocks, 0 steals, and had 4 turnovers. And when asked about being benched after the game, this is what Cam said.
Is a game like this frustrating when you're on the bench at the time when Houston is making their run, hitting their shots?
No comment.
And you might be thinking, if he's going to score 21 points on 13 shots, what's the problem? Well, the problem is when Cam Thomas isn't shooting 60% from the field, and when he's shooting 40% from the field, which is what he's been doing this year, while shooting 32% from 3, all of a sudden, those turnovers, the lack of defense, the lack of ball movement becomes a serious problem. And when you just look at this game against Houston as an example, even if we ignore the turnovers, it is the process Cam Thomas has on offense that can drive coaches crazy. Like here where Clax slips the screen, and with 2 on the ball, just make the pass, Cam. Just make it. But no, he doesn't see it or can't make it and backs it out to Williams to reset. Or again, this time with Sharp setting the screen. Cam, make that pass. It's right there. Just make the pass. But no, he waits and loses his handle. And this is what drives coaches crazy. Because yes, the NBA is about scoring, but it's not about scoring individually, it is about scoring as a collective. Why are guys like Luka Doncic, Jokic, Brunson, Steph so great is because they are amazing scorers, but they also leverage that scoring to then create opportunities for everyone else. And this is what people need to understand with Cam Thomas. Yes, he is a great scorer. He can score in so many ways, but there is always someone better. And when you look around the NBA, just think about the best scorers on every team. I just mentioned those guys. even the best scorers on the bottom teams, Trey Murphy, Zion Williamson, Lauri Markkanen, Keontae George, is Cam Thomas better than any of these guys? No. Is he more efficient than any of these guys? No. Is he a better playmaker than any of these guys? No. And again, this isn't to slander Cam Thomas, but if you're going to put the ball in his hands and allow him to score like he's capable of, is that going to lead you anywhere? It's not. Because the NBA isn't just about how much you can score. The NBA is a league about superstars, and it's how you fit around those superstars. I mean, look no further than his new teammate, Michael Porter Jr. We saw him in years play alongside Nikola Jokic and even Jamal Murray as a third, sometimes a fourth option. A guy who just spotted up and took threes most of the game and cut opportunistically, averaging 18 points a game. He goes to Brooklyn, becomes the first option, and all of a sudden is averaging 27 points a game. He's doing it more efficiently than Cam Thomas could ever dream of, and that's how many players are talented. How many other players in the league could go to a new team and do that? So many players. In fact, we have seen this for the last 3 years in Brooklyn. Firstly, it was McCall, then it was Cam Johnson, and then MPJ. All of these guys went to Brooklyn, they averaged more points, got more opportunity, and then got traded. So why is Cam any different? Well, when the Knicks traded for McCall, they didn't trade for him because he was averaging 25 points a game. It was nice to see the improvements he made on offense, but it's because he's a 6'9" Iron Man who plays defense, shoots threes at a high clip, and is going to do all of the dirty work. And this is why it's so hard for Cam to find a spot. You see how many talented scorers there are, but all of these guys do more than just score. I mean, we just saw Trae Young go for absolute scraps because teams are worried about his defense and his efficiency. Trae Young is one of the greatest passers ever. That's how hard it is to be valuable in the NBA as just an offensive player. Honestly, it's the reality for most of the NBA. The NBA is about finding a role and a team where you can thrive. Some guys can thrive anywhere they go, but for 99% of the league, it is team, coach, and situation dependent. The only difference between Cam and other role players is he scores, but that doesn't make him an elite player. And just like so many other players, you have to find a situation where your skill set is going to be useful. And in saying that, Cam Thomas still does have a skill set. If this sounds like I'm just bashing him or saying he's a terrible player, no, that's not the case. There is still a route for him. I think a guy like Norman Powell is the absolute best case scenario. The difference is Powell is more athletic, he is bigger, he is a better defender, and he has been a better shooter. Or even a guy like Jordan Clarkson might be more realistic as someone who you can just put out there and say, look, get us some buckets in this 10-minute stretch when our best players are off the floor. And I think Cam Thomas can absolutely do that. But if you're looking for him to be a 30-point per game scorer, which I'm sure he could do if you put him in Utah and just played 30 minutes a night, that's just not going to lead your team anywhere. Cam Thomas is going to have to find a spot where he can be more efficient, more locked in on defense, and play probably less minutes. But in the meantime, this is why Cam Thomas doesn't have an NBA team.